friends, Betsy here. As you may remember from our last two videos with Josh and Kevin, we are spending this series talking about the new normal. That's a phrase you may be hearing thrown around in lots of different circles because right now we are exploring this during COVID, post-COVID life, and we are preparing for what our world will continue to look like having gone through this experience together. Luckily for us, the church is used to having seasons where they have to adapt to a new normal. Since people first started following the way of Jesus, people who were disciples had to navigate how to continue to live out their baptism in a new environment. Our passage today is out of the book of Acts. Acts has so many beautiful pieces of wisdom for us about what it looks like to live a baptized life. So today, I'm going to be reading out of Acts chapter 10. Feel free to read along or to just listen as I read it for you. In Caesarea, there was a man named Cornelius, a centurion of the Italian cohort, as it was called. He was a devout man who feared God with all his household. He gave alms generously to people and prayed constantly to God. One afternoon at about 3 o'clock, he had a vision in which he clearly saw an angel of God coming in and saying to him, "Cornelius." He stared in terror at him and said, "What is it, Lord?" He answered, "Your prayers and your alms have ascended as a memorial before God. Now send men to Joppa for a certain Simon, who is called Peter. He is lodging in the house of Simon a tanner. It's by the seaside." When the angel who spoke to him had left, he called 2 of his slaves and a devout soldier from the ranks of those who served him, and after telling them everything, he sent them to Joppa. About noon the next day, as they were on their journey and approaching the city, Peter went up on a roof to pray. He became hungry and wanted something to eat, and while it was being prepared, he fell into a trance. He saw the heaven open and something like a large sheet coming down, being lowered to the ground by its 4 corners. In it were all kinds of 4-footed creatures and reptiles and birds of the air. Then he heard a voice saying, "Get up, Peter, kill and eat." But Peter said, "By no means, Lord, for I have never eaten of anything unclean or profane." The voice said to him again a second time, "What God has made clean, you must not call profane." This happened 3 times, and the thing was suddenly taken up to heaven. Now, while Peter was greatly puzzled about what to make of this vision that he had seen, suddenly the men sent by Cornelius appeared. They were asking for Simon's house and were standing by the gate. They called out to ask Simon, who was called Peter, was staying there. While Peter was still thinking about the vision, the Spirit said to him, "Look, 3 men are searching for you. Now get up and go down and go with them without hesitation, for I have sent them." So Peter went down to the men and said, "I am the one you are looking for what is the reason for your coming?" They answered, "Cornelius, a centurion, an upright and God-fearing man who is well spoken of by the whole Jewish nation, was directed by a holy angel to send for you and come to his house and to hear what you have to say." So Peter invited them in and gave them lodging. The next day he got up and went with them, and some of the believers from Joppa accompanied him. The following day they came to Caesarea. Cornelius was expecting them and had called together his relatives and close friends. On Peter's arrival, Cornelius met him and falling at his feet worshipped him. But Peter made him get up, saying, "Stand up, for I am only mortal." And as he talked with him, he went in and found that many had assembled and said to them, "You yourselves know that it is unlawful for a Jew to associate with or to visit a Gentile, but God has shown me that I should not call anyone profane or unclean. So when I sent for him, I came without objection. Now, may I ask why you have sent for me?" I love these stories in Acts. I love looking at how people who were following Jesus, people who knew Jesus, were having these interactions with the Spirit where they were learning how to continue growing in the way, how to continue living out their baptized life. See, I so appreciate Peter here because he has been doing things a certain way his whole life, and he takes a lot of pride, not in an inappropriate way, but pride in being a follower of God who has then encountered the Messiah and changed his life to follow the way of Jesus. And here we see the Lord asking Peter to make a big shift in what it looked like to live the baptized life. Because God is opening up this opportunity for Peter to extend hospitality to an entire group of people that had previously been disconnected from God's family. God very purposefully chose a people to walk with through history. But when Jesus came, there became an opening for that relationship to extend beyond the chosen people of Israel. And this story is an example of how Peter had to reorient his entire life to learn what it looked like to live out the love of Jesus in this new normal. For us as disciples, I've thought a lot about what are we going to learn from this experience? How are we going to live out the way of Jesus during this time of quarantine, during this time of phases of reopening, during this time of living toward a vaccine, during this time of what it looks like post-COVID? We have so many questions because these times are uncertain. But for the disciples living in the time of the book of Acts, we see the same thing. These were times that were uncertain, and they were having to ask big questions about what does faithfulness look like. One of my favorite preachers, Tara Beth Leach, preached a sermon a couple of weeks ago talking about disciples living life together. And one of the images that she used that really stuck out to me was when we begin to think that discipleship is only about us and our personal relationship with Jesus, then it's as though we are imagining ourselves as the bride of Christ walking down the aisle toward our groom as just a hand or just an eyeball. Because we have always been called to discipleship and community. And so the story that we see here, where God's hospitality and love extends to a group of people who weren't included before, has a lot to say for us. Because it would be easy for us to continue in this new normal of watching church in our sweatpants at home and forgetting about the people that we're called to do life alongside of. But discipleship is not consumeristic. Discipleship is not about what we want. It is not about what is easiest for us. And so we are called to continue to extend the hospitality of the way of Jesus into our world. So the questions that I have for us this week about baptized life are centered in this idea of extending hospitality. How do we continue to love well when we are physically separated from other people? What are ways that we can do that? The second question that I have is, in this time where church is taking on a new shape, what are groups of people or individuals that you know that we need to be extending this love to, that we need to listen for the call of the Lord to say, open your eyes, get up, and do something? Because I think that the story that we see here with Peter and Cornelius is one of many examples where the Lord leads us toward people that we may not have seen otherwise. I hope that you'll join us on Wednesday as we discuss this together, as we talk about these difficult questions and the wisdom that there is in Scripture for us, as we look at living out the new normal as baptized disciples. I sure miss you guys, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Happy Monday.